Madame Tussauds has a unique status in Britain. It's an honor even for the biggest celebrities to be selected for inclusion in the exhibition. Today, the Spice Girls portraits are to be unveiled to the public at Madame Tussauds' sister attraction, Rock Circus. Presenting one new figure to the press is a big event, but a whole rock band is something else entirely.
Yeah, we're going to take them out.
An unveiling of the latest celebrity likeness is always a major event.
Madame Tussaud in the UK is an institution. We've been brought up with it. We get brought when we're children. We all know it and love it, and perhaps have a very similar feeling maybe towards the relationship that some Americans have with the Disney Corporation, for example. It's a similar type of idea.
It's a military operation, this.
Look at shot.
The first bit will be easy because it's film crews. The second bit with the photographers will be the nasty bit. But... Broadcast only for now.
Diane Moon had to manage maximum publicity for the unveiling while at the same time keeping the unruly British press in order. It's a tough challenge.
I like the snappers best, to be honest. I like the photographers. They're a bit feisty, a bit of a handful, but they're great.
To make it a bit more orderly, could you call us out on the list?
The photographers from the national papers decided they wanted preferential treatment, but Diane Moon's in no mood to negotiate.
There's a queue. We're forming an orderly queue, apparently, because this guy who's been here since 7 o'clock this morning, he's first in the queue. And then we'll open the curtains to reveal.
The Spice Girls unveiling turns out to be a huge success. For celebrities to be chosen for inclusion in Madame Tussauds is a measure you've arrived at the top of your profession and in the affections of the British people. Just seconds before the unveiling and backstage, even the stars are nervous. Finally, the moment the press have been waiting for.
Sing one.
Beatles.
I know, I just heard that. That is amazing. I know, that is pretty like, wow.
While selection is an honor, deselection is a fate worse than death. Madame Tussauds operates a rigorous policy of one in, one out. For every new celebrity added to the exhibition, one must be removed.
Obviously, we have to. The London exhibition's been in the same building for over 100 years, and if we'd never taken anybody out, you wouldn't get a single guest in there because they'd be stacked wall to wall. And so obviously people do have to be removed from it.
A few linger on, left literally on the shelf in the special part of the exhibition reserved for those whose star has waned but not quite been extinguished. The rest are locked away in the basement with only each other for company.
It's fairly obvious when people are suddenly going, well, I don't think I recognise that person anymore, and new generations coming forward who perhaps don't remember what they did. And so they tend to deselect themselves.
Back from Los Angeles, Jenny Ferry has begun work on the Michelle Kwan portrait. It's built around a metal structure called the armature, which will provide strength and support for the figure.
I'm going to start putting clay on the armature. I like to get a real feel of the pose, especially with something like this and with such movement. I want to really get the feel of Michelle Kwan as I remember her.
Jenny has wanted to be a sculptor since childhood and came to Tussauds after studying anatomy and sculpture in art school.
I suppose it's all-consuming, this sort of job, because it's not something that you switch off after work. You're always looking at people on the tube. Bodies interest me. You know, watching television, everything around you. This is a belly button. In the initial stages of sculpture, I think it really materialises really quickly, and it's the sort of the following weeks when you're desperately trying to get every measurement to be perfect and to get every part of the anatomy exactly right. That's when it takes time. But at the moment, I mean, it's a really exciting stage. It's really good fun because it's just getting the clay on and really blocking it out. It's nice, it's quite free and quite creative doing this bit.
Remarkably, this is the work of a few hours, but from now on, progress will be slower. With the real Michelle Kwan rarely far from her thoughts, Jenny was ready to show the sculpture to her boss, Steve Swales, when we returned 4 weeks later. He must approve her work before she can move on to the next stage.
I think what it might be, Jenny, that the waist on that side might be just cut in a little bit too much. Can I just see where the small of the back would come?
Yeah.
You know, if you
Everyone's work is subjected to regular critique at Tussauds, and Steve Swales is famous for his meticulous approach.
So that's looking, you know, if anything, it's looking wide, isn't it?
Too big,
Yeah. So it just might need some adjustment through there. And the thing is, you've kept the lovely flow of the figure, and that's...
Jenny's work is scrutinized to the greatest degree, especially since this is her first big assignment. It's crucial that she does well on the Kwan portrait.
In the end, the person stands by the figure, and you don't want it to be a few centimetres or inches shorter than the person or too tall or whatever. So it's those sort of things that we have to check. We try to get it as near as possible to the person. It's not just an artistic impression. But I must say, I do have that reputation of being millimetre man.
Well, he has to be.
I love the way you've got the muscle coming through to there. That's great.
Steve is satisfied and gives Jenny the all clear to move on to the next stage.
OK, I've got the line. I'm a bit low here.
Can you hold that up, please?
Mm-hmm.
OK. Right, I'm ready.
OK.
Could you unwrap that wire?
Yes, probably all right now because it's above the thing.
With the head now removed from the body, Jenny can work on it in more detail. Her next task will be to fashion the clay into the closest possible likeness of her subject.
Righty, here we go.
In the Grand Hall, there's an international incident brewing. American territory is under threat as staff make room for a new display of British royals.
That'll be all right.
Inside Madame Tussaud's Grand Hall, there's a power struggle going on. The American presidents are being shunted from their usual position. No stranger to global conflict, Mrs. Thatcher has become involved, along with her hero, Winston Churchill.
Oops. Cool. And then...
The staff is preparing to tempt the public with a Valentine's Day attraction, a new display of royal wedding dresses. When it comes to royal weddings, the dress designers always make two identical dresses, one for the bride and one for Madame Tussauds. The new display will feature Princess Diana, along with Prince Andrew's wife Fergie, the Duchess of York, and Sophie, the Countess of Wessex, who married Prince Edward in 1999.
Women are always interested in dresses, the materials, the shapes, the structures, and because it's spreading over quite a few years as well, and then right up to Sophie's wedding recently, you've got the difference in styles in terms of years as well.
Meanwhile, at the other end of the Grand Hall, the American presidents seem to be settling into their new home, even if the neighbors are a bit unsure about all the fuss.
It gives them a fresh lease on life to have a bit of a change, doesn't it?
This display of royal princesses may have a romantic theme, but it's also poignant. Fergie was divorced from Prince Andrew in 1996. Diana's marriage to Prince Charles was a tragedy lived out before the entire world.
We were looking at the photographs of Princess Diana at the time of the wedding, and the contrast of the way she looked then to the way she looked toward the end of her life is quite remarkable.
Judy Craig showed us the photographs taken at the sitting with the young Diana.
She didn't want to be seen with a big smile, so she wanted just a more serious look, which was a pity because you can see in this photograph how lovely it would have been if she had been smiling, but no, she chose to have the more serious look.
A potent mix of royalty and romance, the display is a major hit with the public.
Look at that. Isn't it gorgeous?
Tussaud sculptor Jenny Ferry has spent a month working on the head of world champion ice skater Michelle Kwan. She's reached the point familiar to most artists when the doubts creep in and the work goes slowly.
I've just probably passed the stage of enjoying it and I've entered the stage of hating it. The thing that I find difficult about portraits is the eyes, and I don't know if that's the case with other sculptors. The life of a person is in the eyes, really, and getting both the eyes to look in the same direction is really crucial.
I don't think you ought to come out too much. I think if you bring it off down that way, and then...
As always, Steve Swales is on hand to offer a bit of advice.
When I'm getting that level there, that is beginning to look a bit domey and maybe a bit big. So
On here?
Yeah, so it might be that it's got to come off there a little bit.
When I first started working here, I found it very difficult to have anybody come up, look over my shoulder, tell me how to do something, because I've had a lot of freedom before. I've been at art college, expressing myself however I please.
Sort of vast areas.
We do have to be careful about not allowing too much artistic freedom. It would be wonderful to just let something go and do an impression of somebody, but that's not what we're about. People want us to see it as accurate as possible and do a double take and say which is the real one. It's only a certain kind of sculptor who has the patience to be willing to push their technique to those boundaries. That doesn't suit everybody at all.
4 months after Jenny Ferry met Michelle Kwan in the flesh, the sculpting stage of the process is almost finished.
I've got the head to a finished state and I've put it back on the body. With the head, the main thing that I've found a problem is actually getting it to look like bone underneath skin. The cheeks are so difficult, they're so smooth and subtle that I kept trying things and trying different tools as well to really get the smoothness. But I think it's there.
This is a big day for Jenny. The clay figure needs to be approved so work can begin on the next stage.
Just the one-off thing.
Yes.
And pull it away so they can get...
Judy Craig will decide whether Jenny's work has reached the required standard.
Okay, looking at it from the front, it's looking really good. My only concern is what happens at the muscle, what happens here. That doesn't... There's something lacking there, and I don't know without getting someone to stand in the pose and look at it, but it just, even looking at this, that fullness there feels rounder. Maybe it's too far forward here, maybe it needs more form here, but I'd get someone to stand in the pose and just work those muscles going back up into the hair. Yeah, nice wrinkles. The creases.
Yeah. It's working well. I was worried about them because I wanted it still to look like young skin.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't want it to be sort of deflated.
I think it's beautiful, the way she's done that neck.
Good. Well, Jenny, I think you've done a really good job. It's lovely. It is really looking smashing. And you just have those, finishing off those little details and those minor adjustments, and then we're done. So we're ready to do a sign-off. So, neckline sculpting. There you go.
It's a beautiful job, and that's official. But not 1 ounce of Jenny's clay sculpture will end up in the finished figure. It's simply a template for the next group of craftsmen to work their magic.